We bring you the lunch edition of MBC News with me, Romeo Omari. Our top stories. The Office of the President and Cabinet dismisses social media reports claiming President Mutharika has asked the first Vice President Dr. Jen Ansah to resign. Ministry of Agriculture describes new farming technologies as essential for ensuring food security as the country faces increasing climatic shocks. Government advocates for the selection of high-performing athletes to represent the country. Story, the Office of the President and Cabinet has dismissed reports circulating on social media claiming that the President, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, has asked the first Vice President, Dr. Jen Ansah, to resign. In a statement signed by Chief Secretary Justin Saidi, the OPC said that under Section 90, subsection 1, presidential decisions are formally communicated in writing under the President's signature and no such written communication exists. The OPC says the claims are false, baseless and deliberately misleading, aimed at tarnishing the image of the current administration in which Dr. Ansah serves as the first Vice President. The statement further says that the Vice President continues to fully discharge her constitutional duties, including participating in cabinet meetings and contributing to the governance of the country. The OPC also clarified that the recent adjustments to the budget of the Office of the Vice President are part of broader fiscal consolidation measures being implemented across all ministries, departments, and agencies. The Ministry of Labour has assured stakeholders that a new child labour policy and a formalised national action plan are being developed to eliminate child labour by 2030. Labour Commissioner Lero said this in Lero during an evaluation meeting for the Joining Forces for Africa JOFA project, which is concluding its current phase. Emmanuel Chigonso reports.
According to Janet Nkhoma, Programs Manager for Save the Children, which implemented the project in Lilongwe and in Chisi over the past 3 years with European Union funding, the initiative has registered notable success. She said the project identified over 800 cases of child labor, successfully resolved 600 of them, while also empowering more than 4,000 children through various interventions. However, Nkhoma expressed concern over the absence of a formal national action plan and child labor policy, saying this might limit coordinated efforts among stakeholders.
What the project is calling to all the stakeholders, the Ministry of Labour and the other ministries that support child protection issues, the civil society organizations, the private sector, and the media, the community themselves, is to support the process of coming up with the National Child Labour Policy into a live document.
In a response, Labour Commissioner Khaleliwayo Nyangulu acknowledged the challenges posed by the absence of the two key documents, but assured stakeholders that progress has been made.
As a ministry, we actually came up with a draft policy some time back, which we submitted to Cabinet for approval. But it was noted that the way we had structured our policy, it was going to be a bit problematic in the sense that we did not capture the difference between child labor and child work.
Meanwhile, reports indicate that over 2.1 million children in Malawi are currently engaged in child labor, highlighting the urgency of strengthened interventions. Emmanuel Chikonso, MBC News, Lilongwe.
New farming technologies have been described as crucial in promoting food security in the country amidst climatic shocks. Principal Agricultural Officer from Mzuzu ADD, Stelia Mangochi, made the remarks during a field day at Jololo in the area of traditional authority Jalavikuwa in Mzimba North. Jackson Sichari with the details.
Underscoring the importance of crop diversification, Mzuzu ADD has been advising farmers in Mzimba North to adopt climate-smart agricultural technologies to improve crop production. Speaking during the Agriculture Field Day, Mangochi said their office is aware of the climate-related challenges that farmers are currently facing, hence their interventions to deal with them. She further urged farmers to practice crop diversification and construct proper collars for their livestock.
As the ministry, despite of promoting growing of crops and rearing animals, livestock and beekeeping, as well as fish production, we are also looking at the commercialization of these products.
T.A. Jalavikuwa of the area hailed Mzuzu ADD for empowering farmers in his area to achieve food and income security.
We need to plant several varieties to reduce the impacts of climate change. You know, we have intermittent rains. The rains these days are not forthcoming, so it's important that they diversify because you know when the crop production like maize fails, one of them maybe they planted 4 crops, one of them like beans or groundnuts. They may harvest and then have they can sell and buy food. So it's very, very important that I have to advise my farmers here, my people in particular, to diversify in these changing times in terms of climate.
One of the farmers in the area, Mirika Chiwaka, said she is able to support her family through farming. The technologies the farmers are implementing include sasakawa in maize production and double row planting in groundnuts. Apart from practicing crop production, the farmers are also practicing beekeeping and livestock farming. This year's field day was held under the theme Diversification of Agriculture Technologies and Innovations amidst climate change challenges, key to sustainable food, income and nutrition security. Jackson Sechari, MPC News, Mzimba.
Ministry of Health and Sanitation, under the Program for Reproductive Health, locally known as Nzatose Project, has received 16 vehicles from German government to boost reproductive health services in the country. The vehicles will be deployed across 10 districts to support the delivery of services in hard-to-reach areas. Speaking after receiving the vehicles, the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, Beston Chisamire, said the donation has come at the right time when the ministry is in need of such resources to help reach rural communities with reproductive health awareness.
We know that mobility is of great concern in the country, and with our project for sexual and reproductive health, Zatonze, we want to reach women and girls and men in hard-to-reach areas so that they can learn about family planning methods, about contraceptions, and about raising their lifestyles by having a secure family planning.
Indeed, this is a milestone in terms of providing services to the hard-to-reach areas. The 16 motor vehicles, the Land Cruisers that we have received today, will help to provide sexual reproductive health services in the 10 districts in Malawi. And as a ministry, we indeed appreciate the gesture from the German government through KFW.
Kamuzu University of Health Sciences, KUHES, says there is a need for collective efforts in dealing with mental health issues in the country. Speaking during the launch of the newly formed Chiradzulu District Mental Health Board, KUHES lead researcher on mental health, Action Amos, said the establishment of the board will serve as an opportunity for a decentralized governance on mental health.
Well, the project is targeting enhancing access to treatment within the district through capacitating different stakeholders. We're looking at frontline workers such as the community health workers whom we have trained. We've also capacitated persons with lived experience themselves. We have worked with nurses, ensuring that we build their capacity around mental health, accessibility. As you know, mental health has been a neglected condition for a long time, hence we have been working as a project in building the capacity of such key stakeholders within the district.
Why Chiradzulu?
Well, Chiradzulu was selected as one of the districts that was most affected, and we are not only working in Chiradzulu, but we are also working in Salima, and we saw it fit that in the districts where the numbers are high, hence we needed to do our research in that district.
District Medical Officer and Chairperson of the board, Dr. Charles Moreko, expressed gratitude to KUHIS for the assistance, adding that the board will work tirelessly in ensuring that there is an improvement in mental health care in the district and the country.
Firstly, I would like to express our sincere gratitude for the establishment of this advisory board. Is first of its kind. It has never been in the district before. So the coming of this board will gonna help to advance or strengthen mental health services in the district. For a long period of time, mental health issues haven't been given the much needed attention because of various factors. So with the coming of this board, we believe mental health disorders, mental health issues will be given the necessary attention.
This is MBC News, a reminder of our top stories. The Office of the President and Cabinet dismisses social media reports claiming President Mutharika has asked the First Vice President Dr. Jenan Sa to resign. Ministry of Agriculture describes new farming technologies as essential for ensuring food security as the country faces increasing climatic shocks. Government advocates for the selection of high-performing athletes to represent the country in international competitions. Moving on, we're going to our special report where we explore the connection between scrap metal business and vandalism of Electricity Supply Commission of Malawi, ESCOM's property. The special report discovers that while scrap metal market is fueling the vandalism, police are yet to find a solid link between the two. Justin Nkweo has more.
Stories about stolen Electricity Supply Corporation of Malawi, ESCOM properties, such as transformers and power cables, are not new. Stories about people dying in hospitals, people deprived of entertainment, people failing to have basic needs because of vandalism-induced blackouts are equally not new. Again, stories about ESCOM spending billions of kwachas replacing vandalized properties are not new at all. Year in, year out, these stories are told in the media, at funerals, in churches, at gatherings, and all other places one can imagine. That has done little to deter some people from vandalizing ESCOM property, costing the utility service provider billions of kwachas. ESCOM Chief Public Relations Officer Pirani Piri says the electricity distributor spends an estimated 3 billion kwacha every year in replacing vandalized property. Piri says the vandalism is fueled by unregulated scrap metal market, which provides a readily available market for the stolen property.
These illegal acts disrupt our operations by diverting scarce resources away from new connections towards the constant replacement of stolen infrastructure, which in turn leads to prolonged power outages for our customers.
The scrap metals market is currently unregulated in the country. However, there is an association consisting of scrap metal traders which has membership across the country. Southern Region Scrap Metals Association executive member James Chalera admits that the scrap metal trade provides a readily available market to vendors of ESCOM property. Chalera says in trying to curb the problem, they have introduced membership identity to easily trace those buying ESCOM property and bring them to book. He alleges, however, that a parallel market from the association led by foreign nationals has emerged, which is buying scrap at higher prices, and this market is beyond their control and probably only law enforcers can help.
We have our eyes on the ground because we need to take away their business papers so that maybe we can deal with this problem of vandalism of ESCOM property.
To confirm his allegations, recently, 2 Indian nationals were caught with 56 kilograms of ESCOM copper disguised as scrap metal, and it was heading for the scrap metals market. While the link between the market and vandalism has been confirmed by both ESCOM and scrap metal traders, and they are both banking on the police is skeptical of this link and says it has not established any from their operations. Beatrice Mikua is Southwest Region Police spokesperson and describes this established link as speculation.
The relationship can be there, but maybe as police we cannot say that we have discovered that relationship, but the speculations are like that there's a relationship between the vandalized equipments and the scrap metal market.
The police is a legally established law enforcer with 4 main goals when it comes to preventing crime. The first is retribution, the second is rehabilitation, the third is deterrence, while the last is incapacitation or removing danger from society. In this case, ESCOM and Scrap Metals Association have banked their hopes on the police to help in dealing with the vandalism of ESCOM property. If police can come in full throttle, arrest vandals, crack down on the scrap metals market and bring perpetrators to book, it will help to deter would-be offenders and remove danger from society to prisons. As the saying goes, nip it in the bud. The only way to deal with the vandalism of electricity supply property is to crack down on the scrap metal market by making sure that they do business in accordance with the law. If that does not happen, stories about stolen electricity supply corporation ESCOM properties such as transformers and power cables will not stop. Stories about people dying in hospitals, people deprived of entertainment, people failing to have basic needs because of vandalism-induced blackouts will not stop. And what makes it worse is that stories about ESCOM spending billions replacing vandalized properties will not stop. Justin Nkweo, MBC News, Blantyre.
Engineering students at the Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences, MUBUS, have been challenged to move beyond the traditional technical proficiency and focus on innovation to meet the demands of the rapidly evolving technological landscape. Learning and Development Specialist with Ilovo Sugar Malawi, Wilfred Lipenga, said this during the closing ceremony of the Engineering Week at MUBUS, a week dedicated to the students to showcase their innovations. Gisomo Break reports.
Lipenga emphasized that while technical knowledge is fundamental, future engineers must be creative, problem solvers who can also develop sustainable and socially responsible solutions.
We run different programs that directly involve students and graduates of universities and institutions such as MUBUS. For instance, we've got our management development program where graduates from institutions like MUBUS come and work with us. We give them projects, they identify projects, and through those projects they innovate and come up with solutions that address our business.
President of the Malawi Engineering Institution MUBUS chapter, Thompson Piri, stressed that students at the institution are encouraged to apply theoretical knowledge to real problems early in their education through collaborative projects and team-based competitions.
We all know as engineers our aim is to create from something that has not been there. So a lot of students have been complaining like we do have our projects, we do have a lot of ideas for innovations, but we lack some of the fundings or like people to view what we are doing. So we decided to showcase the innovations that are happening here at MUBUS on both electrical and also mining and also mechanical engineering department.
First Princess at the Miss Malawi 2025 Irene Navicha said it was encouraging to see students showcasing local engineering innovations that are meant to solve local problems.
I saw some of the innovations that have been made that help in the health industry, even in the economic industry. So I feel like they're really helping to transform our country, and they should keep going. And to everybody else who also feels like being an innovator or being a part of this, they should go for it. It's just about thinking different, trying to come up with a solution to something that maybe hasn't been solved in a long time. So they should know that they have that potential. They're capable of also being innovators.
During the week, the engineering students showcased various innovative ideas under the umbrella theme, Innovative Engineering for a Resilient and Self-Reliant Malawi. Chisomo Break, MBC News, Blantyre.
Democratic Progressive Party DPP Director of Women for the Southern Region, Maria Mainja, has called on companies and organizations in the country to come to the rescue of Montfort School for the Blind, which is facing numerous challenges. Mainja, who is also the presidential advisor on safe motherhood, made the call when she treated learners with visual impairment at the establishment to a luncheon as part of Easter celebrations. Tamvani reports.
Joy and happiness defined the mood at Montfort School for the Blind, as DPP women, led by Mainja, together with members from their alliance partners, AFOD and NDP, treated learners at the facility to a luncheon. According to Mainja, children with various forms of disability, including the visually impaired, deserve love and care.
DPP and its alliances, AFOD and NDP, we are a loving alliance. We love this country. We love our people. As you can see today, the women came together to celebrate with the kids. These are underprivileged kids. They can't see us, but they can feel our love. They can feel the love of our president, Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, and they can feel the change in Malawi. So we came here today to celebrate Easter with the kids and just to bring joy and bring a little bit of change to their lives.
In her remarks, resource teacher in charge for Montfort School for the Blind, Anne Banyira, said the school faces a lot of challenges, such as inadequate food supplies, dilapidated hostels, and fallen fence, which pose a threat to learners, particularly those with albinism.
Us as Montfort School for the Blind, we are very happy for this gesture. We are very grateful because it's something that we didn't expect. For the various challenges, like in our resource center and the body, the main challenge that we have is food. We have learners from ultra-poor families who can't even contribute anything. This makes the boarding facility to have a great challenge on food commodity.
Meanwhile, while calling on well-wishers to intervene in the situation at Montfort School for the Blind, Mainja says the DPP-led government is committed to addressing such challenges.
President Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika is committed to bring change in Malawi. We've had a very rough 5 years. The past 5 years have been rough for the children, for everybody, the disabled, women, leaders. Everybody has been challenged with the past 5 years. But now, change is here. Professor is here. We are taking the challenges to different departments, education and gender and many other departments, and to the private sector. There are so many challenges here. But I want to challenge you today that we will tackle these problems. We will tackle this problem and we will bring change here. Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika is now our president and he wants change, and that's why we are here today.
Montfort School for the Blind employs 3 support staff who each receive less than 55,000 kwacha per month. For more than 5 years, the institution has had no running water and it relies on a borehole which frequently breaks down. Tamvani, MPC News, Chiladzulu.
Government has emphasized the need to identify and promote athletes who are excelling in various competition platforms to represent Malawi in international competitions. Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Youth and Sports, Mishek Yagonta-Montari, made the remarks at the conclusion of the 2026 Mzuzu City Health Marathon, where athletes showcased outstanding performances. Hassan Piri reports.
Montari said local competitions such as Mzuzu City Half Marathon provide an important platform for identifying talent capable of representing Malawi at international level. He stressed that government and sports stakeholders must work together to support outstanding athletes through structured development programs to ensure that Malawi is represented by athletes that have demonstrated their ability through tournaments such as Mzuzu City Half Marathon.
We are also committed that those that have won here will continue to support them to participate in regional games, in Commonwealth Games, and also Africa Games. So these games, these kinds of competitions are very important because they help us to identify, nurture and improve talent that we can showcase and take to the international platform.
Board member for Malawi National Council of Sports, Ali Simisomali, says through various associations they will track the high-performing athletes and earmark them for international competitions.
Through the associations, we have already identified them. We have already known their potential. We have already known their zeal. Because as long as somebody have got a zeal who is able to do great.
Kondwani Chamala is the president for Athletics Malawi.
At the moment we have any competition which is targeting half marathoners, we are always going to refer to this kind of competition, who got who was number 1, who was number 2. And if we are looking for a full marathoner, we also normally target blind marathon. The previous weeks we had also time trials for the under 20s. So we always pick based on merit.
Brave Mwampante of Chirumba Barracks emerged the overall winner in men's category, while Faustina Mbemba claimed victory in the women's race after an impressive performance during the competition. The 2026 Mzuzu City Half Marathon attracted over 100 athletes from Malawi and some from across the border. Hassan Piri, MBC News, Mzuzu.
Super League of Malawi, Sulom, has launched the 2026-2027 league calendar, which will run from 25 April 2026 to 14 February 2027. Sulom General Secretary Williams Banda unveiled this at a press briefing in Blantyre, saying this follows a thorough and consultative process of scheduling fixtures. The opening fixture will be between Mighty Wanderers and Karonga United at Kamuzu Stadium in Blantyre on 25 April. Banda explains.
The owners of the grounds will be given this fixture in order for them to plan accordingly. Because when we plan, we ensure that we adhere to it. And also in line with our rules and regulations, a team is allowed to provide an alternative venue. In the event that it fails, we'll use the alternative. Now, in line with your question, we have made sure that the first venues that each and every team accorded us have been allocated in the booklet. And should there be any challenges before 72 hours of each and every match, we'll communicate to them.
And that item wraps up this edition of MBC News. A reminder of our top stories. The Office of the President and Cabinet dismisses social media reports claiming President Mutharika has asked First Vice President Dr. Jane Ansah to resign. Ministry of Agriculture describes the new farming technologies as essential for ensuring food security as the country faces increasing climatic shocks. Government advocates for the selection of high-performing athletes to represent the country in international competitions. You can find these and more by scanning the QR code at the top right corner of your TV screen. You are with me, Romeo Omari. Many thanks for watching, and bye for now.